hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Hiv. So today we are going to have another interesting topic. We're going to talk about HIV transmission. So guys, please like the video, share so that others will be able to get the information, and please don't forget to subscribe. Okay, so HIV and AIDS is something that has been talked about by many people for a very long time. Yes, and it's very sad that some people do not know how this virus called HIV is transmitted. So people have some people have little information on how it is transmitted. They only know, okay, if you have sex with a woman or a man who is HIV positive, you get the virus. But there are many other ways. There are many other modes of transmission apart from unsafe sex. Yes. So, what is AIDS? What is HIV? What do these letters stand for? Okay. HIV stands for human immunovirus deficiency virus. Human immunodeficiency virus. So HIV is not a disease. Okay, HIV is a virus that causes AIDS. It's not a disease, it's a virus that causes AIDS. And then AIDS is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So AIDS is not a virus. AIDS is it's a disease that's that is caused by the virus called HIV. So when you have AIDS, when you've reached the stage of AIDS, okay, you know that your body's immune system cannot fight any other illnesses. Okay, so we're going to talk about the stages of HIV and AIDS in another video, but for today we are going to concentrate on the transmission of HIV. Okay, so AIDS is actually the last stage whereby your body cannot fight off illnesses. So you can say that somebody has got AIDS. That's why you get to have different, like you can easily get flu, you can easily get TB, you can easily get these other diseases because your body cannot fight anymore. Your immune system has been weakened by the HIV virus. Okay, so there are many questions that comes with HIV and AIDS. People ask a lot of questions like, what is AIDS? What is this? Does condoms prevent AIDS? Can HIV be transmitted through breastfeeding? Yeah, and so on and so forth. So I'll look at some of the questions that people usually ask about HIV, in which one of them is, can HIV be transmitted through breastfeeding? Yes, HIV can be transmitted through breastfeeding if the mother is HIV positive. Okay, so the virus is present in the HIV positive mother's breast milk and blood. Therefore, HIV positive mothers need to be on ARVs and adhere to their treatment in order to avoid their babies from getting the virus. So yes, it can be transmitted through breastfeeding. Another question that people usually ask, especially for men, is, can a circumcised man get HIV? Okay, so male circumcision reduces HIV. Male circumcision reduces the risk of transmission by 60%. So the risk is reduced by 60%. Okay, but you still have a 40% chance of contracting the virus if you do not protect yourself and if you sleep with a woman who is HIV positive. Okay, so that 40%, there's that 40% chance of somebody getting the virus if you have unsafe sex, sleep with an HIV positive woman. Okay, Another question that people ask is, can you get can you get HIV from mosquitoes? So what do you think? Can you get HIV from mosquitoes? Because they say a mosquito, let's say for instance, I'm sleeping on the same bed with somebody who is HIV positive, and then the mosquito bites my neighbor and then bites me afterwards. Can you get HIV through that? So the answer is no. HIV cannot live or reproduce uh, in a mosquito. It's not possible. So a mosquito can bite somebody who is HIV positive and also bite you who is negative, but you won't get the virus because it doesn't live in a mosquito. Okay, because the explanation on that is that when a mosquito bites, it doesn't inject its own blood. It doesn't inject its own blood to the person being bitten by a mosquito. Okay, so the mosquito injects saliva, which acts as a lubricant, so it can feed easily. So as we all know, blood or HIV is found in blood. Okay, so a mosquito does not inject blood, but it injects saliva for easy feeding. Another question is it only promiscuous people that can get the HIV virus? Is it only the promiscuous people that can get HIV virus? No, not only the promiscuous people. Anybody can get the virus through different means. Okay, but promiscuous people are at higher risk of getting the virus if they have multiple sexual partners and they don't protect themselves by using condoms. Okay, so it's a yes and no question, but not only promiscuous people. Anybody can get, even a newly born baby can get HIV from the mother, okay, through blood contact or mother to child transmission. So we're going to look at those modes in details. Yes, so promiscuous people are at higher risk of getting the virus than those people that are not promiscuous, but anybody else can get HIV virus. Okay, so what are the three modes? What are the modes of HIV transmission? The modes. How is HIV transmitted? So there are three main modes of HIV transmission. Number one is through penetrative sexual intercourse. That is unprotected without a condom, as we call it, live sex. Another one is mother to child, through mother to child transmission. Another one is through blood to blood contact. Okay, so the first one, which is sexual intercourse. So this is when there's exchange of fluids when having sexual intercourse. So in fluids, it's not only blood. It can be semen. It can be vaginal fluids, especially when you're having oral and anal sex. Okay, so when there's exchange of those fluids, the vaginal fluids, the semen, you can get with if you're having sex with somebody, with a person who is HIV positive, you can easily, and you're not protected, you can easily get the virus. Okay, so in order for you to avoid getting the virus through sexual intercourse, you need to use condoms consistently and correctly. So if you don't use the condom consistently and correctly, you may end up getting the virus. Yes, so you need to be consistent and use them correctly. Okay, you can say, okay, this is the person that I have known for years. So I've been using condoms ever since you started dating, for instance, ever since you got married. You've been using condoms. Like, I think you've developed that trust. So why not try unprotected sex? Immediately you do that, you're putting yourself at higher risk of getting the virus. you're putting yourself at higher risk. So you need to be consistent in your condom use. Not today you use a condom, tomorrow you don't use a condom, today you use a condom, just like that. So that doesn't really help. You end up getting the HIV virus. Okay, another one is through mother to child transmission. So this is from a baby. This is from a baby, from the mother, pardon, to the baby before birth. It can be before birth, it can be during birth. Yes. So during birth there's a higher risk because there's loss of blood involved. Okay. So when a mother is giving birth, there's a lot of blood being lost in the process. So that puts a baby at higher, especially if the mother is HIV positive. So that puts the baby at higher risk of getting the virus if the the health providers are not careful, because there might be cuts, there might be bruises when giving birth. So if there's a bruise or there's a cut on the baby and there's blood that is from the mother, when it comes into contact, the baby can get the virus through birth, during birth, pardon. And then even after the baby is born, there's a higher risk of a child getting HIV virus from the mother through breastfeeding. So like, remember we talked about getting the can HIV be transmitted through breastfeeding? We said the positive mother's breast milk contains the HIV virus. Contains HIV virus, and more especially if a baby reaches 12 months and they're feeding, they start growing teeth. And then maybe in the process of breastfeeding, sometimes babies do bite the nipples or the breast of the mother while it's feeding, and then you never know, maybe baby has a bruise in the mouth or something, they can get the virus through that. So that's why it's advisable for breastfeeding mother, for HIV positive breastfeeding mothers to look for other alternatives of feeding babies apart from breastfeeding. Actually, some, they usually stop them completely from breastfeeding, more especially if you're not on ARVs. Okay, so on that one, even a baby can get the virus through mother to child, like we said, during birth, after birth, breastfeeding. After birth is breastfeeding, during birth when there's the contact of blood. Okay, and so it's advisable, if you're pregnant, it's very important for a mother to be going for checkups. We call them antenatal. You go for antenatal, and when you go for antenatal, they will test if you're positive. They will test for your HIV if you're positive or negative. So if you're positive, the healthcare providers, they'll advise you on what to be taking, because even before birth, you can still transmit the virus from the mother to child. So they will advise you on you start your medication. They can start you on ARVs or something, so that you don't put the baby at higher risk. So that's why it's important for every mother to be going for antenatal. It's important for every expecting mother to know the HIV status, to avoid transmission of the virus. But these days, I think you can find that the mother is HIV positive, the child is negative. Because of the same, go to the hospital, they will advise you on what to do. But a long time ago, some babies used to be born positive because such services were not available then. Okay, so another mode of transmission is blood to blood contact. So blood to blood contact, it can be blood to blood from a positive, when a positive, in an HIV positive patient blood come into contact with an HIV negative person's blood. So this is mostly common when an accident has occurred, so you need to be very careful. So maybe in the car there was an HIV positive person and a negative, and then there's an accident that has occurred. There's that exchange of blood. HIV can enter through that, or sometimes it's through blood transfusion. But if you're doing a blood donation, firstly you have to check all those, if your blood is okay, if you're positive, if your blood is matching. Yes, so that one. So for blood transfusion, the person, before that is done, the person is tested for HIV, but this only tests for the antibodies against the virus. What's the virus? And the person could be in the winter period. Okay, so there's a higher risk when it comes to blood transfusion, because somebody can test negative, but in the winter period. The winter period, this is when the virus is not visible. Even if you test today, it will show you're negative, but the virus is in the body. It's just not being reflected on the test. Okay, so the 4 to 12 week period, when the person has not developed, so this winter period is the 4 to 12 week period when the person has not developed antibodies. So also when a person shares needles, syringes which have not been sterilized, a very low risk possibility is when a person shares piercing instruments, razors and needles. Okay, but for this for HIV transmission to happen, they need to be shared within seconds and still have blood on them. Okay, so you find that you get a needle, you pierce this one, and then you pierce another person. They can be as long as there's blood on that needle or syringe or something, there can be HIV transmission happening, but this can only happen within seconds. Okay, because HIV does not survive for a very long time on outside without blood, not in blood. Doesn't HIV survives in blood. Okay, so there are behaviors that there are behaviors and items that people cannot contract HIV from, that most people, especially if you do not have more information on HIV, how it is transmitted, they say no, if I do this with this person I might get HIV. No. So those behaviors and items that people cannot contract HIV from are as follows. So handshaking, you can't get HIV from handshakes. So like I said earlier, HIV can only be transmitted in fluids, in blood. Okay, in blood, saliva, vaginal fluids, semen. So you can't get HIV from handshaking or bathing with a person who is HIV positive, or kissing, especially. But you can get HIV from kissing if both you, the person who is negative and positive, have got a bruise or a cut in the mouth or on the lips. That's when you can only get HIV. But if you're just okay and there's no bleeding or cut involved, you cannot get HIV through kissing. And also sitting or sharing a bed with a person who is HIV positive, you can't get it. Sharing utensils like cups, plates, spoons, you cannot get HIV through that. Toilet seats, you can be using the same toilet seats but you won't get HIV. And it's touching, massaging, condoms can not get it if you use them consistently and correctly. Okay, masturbation, this is stimulating the genitals by hand, yours or partners. So if you're using your hands and you're stimulating your genitals by hands, you will not get HIV. Okay, so So let's look at the effective transmission of HIV. So HIV must find a way to enter the bloodstream. The entry point can be microscopic, but HIV needs to be present in sufficient quantities for effective transmission. A person with HIV who is not on ARVs can have a higher viral load, okay, when they are infected. So if you're not on ARVs, you have a high viral load, okay, and after living with the virus for a number of years, you develop into a stage called AIDS, which is the last stage, whereby the body cannot fight the illnesses. Your immune system becomes weak, okay. So when you have viral loads, high viral load, it means that you are heading to the last stage of HIV, because you're not on ARVs. So when you're on ARVs, it reduces your viral load, and you can even live a healthy life. You look like any other person who is not HIV positive, okay. And then during exposure of significant amounts of the virus is needed for a longer period, although it is possible to get the virus from one act of unprotected sex, okay. Discondancy, this is when you have this is where one partner has the virus and the other one does not. So this is common even in partners who have been together for some time, even among partners who have had children. So it's very common to have discordant couples, whereby one is positive, one is negative, and they end up having children that are HIV free, that are HIV negative, through the help of the health service providers, okay. So the Zambian Demographic Health Survey that was done in 2014 found that 11% of couples were discordant. 11% of couples in Zambia were discordant, and 6% of these couples, the man was affected and the woman was not, okay. So 1 in 5%, the woman was affected and the man was not, okay. So to conclude our discussion for today, find that adolescents, they need to have relevant information and skills to practice safe sex, especially those adolescents that are indulging in sex. So they need to have relevant information. And also adolescents at higher risk of getting HIV, especially those that are sexually active. So this concludes our topic for today. Please stay safe and look out for more videos, more interesting videos on this. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying tuned. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day.